Greetings, folks. Personally, my favorite thing about PC gaming is that high refresh rate. Full HD, 144 Hz on laptops. If I was on a desktop, perhaps a 27-inch, 1440p, 144 Hz and above. That is my absolute favorite thing about PC gaming. And I am more than willing to compromise some of my settings in order to achieve that performance versus having everything on ultra and having my frame rate tank. But again, this is just the way I enjoy my PC gaming personally. Now, when I do my benchmarks and all my gameplay testing and my review, then of course I put everything on ultra so we can really see what the GPU is capable of within these chassis. But again, when I play for my own self, I am willing to take this 2060 that we have in an Omen or a 1660 Ti, dial back some of those settings so I can get that frame rate up. And that is a compromise I am more than willing to take. And you would be surprised that when you optimize your game per your own preference, with factoring in performance first versus eye candy, that the difference in the overall eye candy between a maxed out setting and something that's a little bit better optimized isn't that much. But what is jarring is that 40 to 60 FPS versus 80 to 120 FPS. That is a very noticeable difference that anybody could even view and see that for themselves, let alone have a mouse in hand. Whereas that eye candy, when it's in motion, there is some differences there, don't get me wrong, but again, that's the beauty of PC gaming for me. So what you're going to see here is several games across some static environments where we're just focusing on one spot with the high settings on the left and an optimized setting on the right. And then you're going to see some benchmarking as well with like Grand Theft Auto, Borderlands, things like that. And you'll see some side-by-sides with DX11 with high settings versus optimized DX12. Vulkan. And when I say high settings, what I actually mean is ultra or epic, and making sure that our resolution scaling is set to 100%, because various games such as Overwatch like to set theirs to 141%. I believe Rainbow Six Siege likes to set theirs to 50%. So I made sure everything was done right. I just didn't tick the ultra box, but I went in there and made sure that everything was legitimately maxed out, and then we're getting the frame rates and everything that you should expect on a GPU. The GPU used here is a 2070 Max-Q. I chose this one intentionally because the performance difference between a 2060 in a laptop or a 1660 Ti in a laptop or that 2070 Max-Q is pretty close to one another, within a couple of percent, as you saw in perhaps a recent video that I had posted. So that was the GPU that I chose here. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. This is more of just a heads up. Ultra is great, but I think that high refresh rate is going to be a little bit better for some of you, and just know that the difference between the two aesthetically may not be as jarring as you think, and a lot of times you may find the more optimized setting to look a little bit better than ultra. All right, enjoy this. We're going to have timestamps down below so you can see what game you might want to check out, and then we'll wrap this up. Two things I want to talk about. One, did you notice that the GPU frequency on the optimized setting was often higher than it was on the all high settings? Well, the reason being is as you start to remove some of that GPU utilization by lowering some of those settings because the CPU is just not fast enough to saturate that GPU, the actual GPU frequency is going to read a little bit higher. And I know that may be a bit of backwards thinking, but you can test this for yourself. It's always been this way since the beginning of time. Now, I have been able to even showcase a 2070 Max P on Overwatch pulling over 2000 megahertz, and I'm only getting 50 to 70% GPU utilization. This is just sort of the way this works. And it's not until you really hammer on these GPUs, get that 99 to 100% GPU utilization, and the actual frequency will really start to cinch itself down. I know it's kind of weird. That's the best that I'm going to be able to explain that for now. But what's even more important than that is that these Intel CPUs are pretty strong and they're good at the full HD 144 hertz, but they're not good enough. And this is one of my biggest concerns about AMD CPUs for 2020. I'm very excited that they're getting here. I can't wait for the 6-core 12-thread, 8-core 16-thread variants, but their instruction per clock and their maximum clock speed may fall a little bit behind Intel. Now, in a desktop environment, that doesn't matter. Most of these guys that are really dumping some money into these things are running, 1440p and really high refresh rates. With that higher resolution, saturating that GPU is much easier than it is on a full HD display. We're very CPU bound, and so getting the fastest CPU possible on what is now common full HD 144 hertz is going to be ideal, especially for the longevity of the machine. As these games become more demanding, we start dialing some of these settings down. We want the fastest CPU possible. If it were up to me, I would go back to a 4-core, 8-thread, overclockable HK chip like the 7820 HK. That was my jam. I actually love that CPU, but those are gone. And any overclockable 6-core 12-thread or 8-core 16-thread Intel chip, man, you're going to need a laptop the size of a Buick to keep it cool. So that's pretty much where I want to wrap this up. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this video. It's different. It's way different than anything I normally post. I was anticipating it taking a very short period of time. Turns out it take about 3 days to get all this together and everything installed and working correctly for the video edit. All right, folks, that's going to do it. I'm Bob of All Trades. Slap that like button, and I'll see you in the next video.